Hello and welcome to another episode of Bharatvaarta, a cricket special. We've had like a great winter season of cricket. We've had the just concluded India South Africa series, which was a disappointment for all Indian fans, and we've had the New Zealand Bangladesh series and also the ongoing Ashes. So with me, I have Mahek Vyas or Mahek Te tweets as he's on Twitter. Abhishek Paul and Rajesh Tiwari, who's also with Twitter handle CrickBC. We'll be discussing all these topics and going forward here. Also, if you all have any this questions on YouTube, please let us know and we'll try and respond to them live if possible. So, anyways, welcome everyone. What thoughts after this? First, like let's talk about the India South Africa series, and it was like quite a disappointing result. Don't you think so? So, Abhishek.
Yeah, so as you said, this was pretty disappointing for Indian fans. I think the series, if you look at it, started really well for us. And I think in some ways we won the first test on the day one itself. I was chatting with Mahek on WhatsApp on that day. And I think we said that if we bat the full day, we should get a decent enough score that will put pressure on South Africa, and that's how it kind of worked out. Looking back at the first test, obviously our opening pair really clicked well on that innings, and that kind of proved to be decisive. I think South Africa also made one selection error in the sense that their fourth seamer was not really strong, right? And they didn't pick Olivier for the first match. They went with an all-rounder, and that kind of allowed the Indian batsmen to, not face so much pressure, right? Once Rabara and Gidi went off, and Janssen was debuting, right? And at that moment, you couldn't tell that he was going to have such a good series the way he had started off. So yeah, I think we did well in the first match. The bowlers bowled well, but they also had the runs behind them, right? And that helped India to sort of comprehensively win the first match. I think second and third kind of followed a similar pattern. We batted first and didn't really put enough runs on the board, kind of subpar totals. The bowlers made a strong comeback in both the innings, both the matches, first innings. So, and kind of after the first innings, the match was even, but India again disappointed in the second innings, and we can talk more about the reasons for the lack of runs as we go along. But what proved to be decisive was that the South African bowlers were effective in the second innings as well. And again, there may be certain reasons for that, like their bowling attack was significantly taller and stronger probably for those wickets, and they managed to get movement throughout. Perhaps that was a reason. But they sort of managed really well in their fourth innings run chases, which did surprise me. Like I was expecting at least on one out of two occasions, they'll probably not be able to do, given it was an inexperienced batting lineup apart from Elgar. But hats off to them. I mean, you have to give credit to the opposition when they play well, and full credit to people like the new KP, right, Keegan Peterson. He's shown immense promise and potential, and he's probably going to be a star for the future. I think Dean Elgar's fighting capabilities we were aware of, and so that really helped them out in the second match and so on. So I think, yeah, overall, India did put up a fight. You would think that this was probably I would compare it to something like the 2018 Australia tour, where we knew that we had a great chance because Smith and Warner were not there. And looking at historically the kind of South Africa teams that we have faced, we knew this was going to be a great chance. Somehow it just didn't work out for us. And yeah. probably Mahek and Rajesh, and you can talk more about some of the other reasons. Yeah.
So yeah, Meg, I think you are usually quite critical of like our middle order and actually like that was the big hole and that was one kind of differentiating factor. Any thoughts that is this like end of the road for like Rahane and Pujara or what are your thoughts on our batting lineup? I think that was one key weakness.
Yeah, I think if you look at the two batting lineups, Keegan Peterson and Temba Bavuma had really good series. These are the two guys batting at 3 and 5 for South Africa, while numbers 3 and 5 for India pretty much failed throughout the series, save for those 50s from in the second innings of the second test. I mean, Rane was batting at 4 in that game since Kohli wasn't playing, but eventually those runs proved to be a massive gap between the two sides. Um, I think the issue here is whether you can drop Pujara and Rane once they've been picked in the squad. It's a little difficult to do it once the selectors have picked them in the squad. If you remember the South Africa series in 2018, they dropped Rahane from the 11 going into the first test, and it took just 2 tests for them to come bring him back because Rohit did not have uh, a good series till then. Likewise, they dropped Pujara before the start of the England series, and it took just 1 test to bring him back. So it's not that they haven't dropped these guys before, but 4 years on, they're even bigger names. So it's a little harder for the captain to drop them. So I think the first blunder was from the selectors to play it safe by picking these guys, thinking it's an away tour. We need that experience. Um, Although I don't know what that experience had done for us of late, but it is what it is. Hopefully, um, we will see new players taking their place in the upcoming series. As far as the end of the road is concerned, I don't think that's something you or I are in a position to say, because if these two guys feel that they have something to contribute, they should still go back to domestic cricket and win back their place in the side. I'm perfectly okay with that. But for now, at least in the next couple of series, I think it's important for India to have Shreyas Iyer bat at 5, and at 3, I think it can be a toss-up between Hanuma Vihari, who had a good A tour of South Africa, did reasonably well in the second test. So he definitely has, done the right things to deserve a place. Or it can be Mayank Agarwal, who has a tremendous record in India. He has 2 double centuries. I think he has a 150 as well. So he can be the number 3 if Rohit and Rahul are going to open. So that's what I think they should do. Whether they do it or not, and who's going to be captain, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, and like maybe Shubman Gill is also there. He might be fit again. So yeah, that's interesting. So like Rajesh, another point which I think Abhishek also pointed out in the team selection, like if you look at our bowling attacks, the Indian bowling attack was all like similar height, right arm fast, bowling straight at the stumps. You have like Shardul Thakur. So the 4 seamers, if you look at it, like Bumrah has a weird action, but like Bumrah, Shami, Siraj, and Umesh Yadav, all 4 of them have like similar release, or at least 3 apart from Bumrah. The other 3 have similar release points, are of similar height, similar pace. Shardul Thakur was an all-rounder. You can compare him maybe to Vian Mulder rather than any of the frontline fast bowlers. And if you look at South Africa, you had like 4 bowlers, 4 fast bowlers. The spinner Ashwin or Keshav Maharaj had like a marginal role, more like a tail end batsman. But like if you look at their bowlers, you have like Rabada, Ngidi are taller, faster, Duan Olivier has a bit of swing. Marco Janssen is very tall, like beanpole and left arm angle. So, what do you think was the difference in the bowling attacks out here?
Yeah, I mean, you cannot, especially not in the middle of a series, cultivate tall fast bowlers, or you would never be able to say match the that height and strength of a South African fast bowlers, or maybe what was once upon a time the West Indies fast bowling unit, right? One of the points I made during the series was about a bowling unit that has different bowlers playing different roles, right? More than just the external qualities of a bowler. If you see, for example, what Ishan Sharma has done over the years for Virat Kohli, right? Or traditionally, what we used to call, because I just referred to West Indies, right? I mean, so one of my favorite bowling players was Ambrose and Walsh. Walsh was always known, and some people say Walsh was one of the best into the wind bowler. Like what
Yeah,
we call into the
yeah,
wind bowler is basically somebody who is not getting so much assistance, who may have to struggle to get real base behind the ball, but his main role is to keep one end blocked, right? Whereas your other bowler who is more skillful can produce more wicket taking deliveries would go for wickets, right? So Ishan Sharma was the blocker for India, right? And that's why Ishan Sharma, of course, a lot of us talk about how he was the most improved bowler in world cricket over the past 3 or 4 years. But especially the role that he played for Virat Kohli, right? That actually made him even more valuable. Where that Ishan Sharma will give him tight, long spells. To some extent, Siraj fitted into that role, where you knew that if Siraj has to bowl a 8 over or a 10 over spell, he would keep it tight. He would not give anything away. Uh, once Ishan Sharma, his after his injury, his abilities seem to be waning. And Siraj got injured in the middle of the second test. I think that kind of while we say we have very capable replacement in somebody like Umesh Yadav, but Umesh Yadav is again he would leak runs. You always know Umesh Yadav will leak runs. You always know because Shardul is a kind of bowler who tries to bowl it full, tries to swing it away and inside. So you would always know again, Shardul, while he may pick up wickets, he'll also leak runs, right? So I think in those and a lot of Kohli's success as a fielding captain was built on applying pressure, and that has been a pattern. Especially the yesterday me and Mahek were talking about the Australia India series where India came from behind, right? Where Australia had won a test match in Pune. I think that was the start of almost a golden phase of Virat Kohli's career, where he really recognized how he wants to go about it in the field, right? And his method in the field is attrition, right? He got the kind of bowlers who can keep the pace up, keep the pressure up all through the day, right? So just I'm just trying to put perspective into how our bowling order contrasts with them. I think we have achieved great success with this bowling order itself. Yes, South African pitches and we should not also forget that Rabada and Ngidi are world class bowlers, right? Rabada was hailed as the greatest, the best fast bowler in the world, the best test fast bowler in the world not so long ago, right? His again his abilities were kind of waning, but once he got back into it, right, in the second and the third test, and with their batsmen and their bowler really knowing these conditions and knowing how to exploit these conditions, I think we may be a little guilty of looking far too much into how India played, while not acknowledging how well South Africa also came back into the series. I think and a lot of experts have made that point from the South African side, how the exit of De Kock also kind of got the group together, right? I mean that kind of mentality of a group hunting together as a pack. We have seen how it affects a team when India was in Australia, right? This is kind of South Africa, turning the playing the same trick on India again. The group really rallied behind this captain. The group really rallied behind this fast bowling attack. And South Africa is a very very proud sporting nation, right? I would never underestimate South Africa. they play like one of the reasons, like we have been saying that South Africa has been at its weakest. But I was just looking at the numbers just before joining this podcast, right? South Africa played just 10 test matches in 2019 and 2020, right? They are sort of an unknown commodity right now. None of us even knew Keegan Peterson, right? I'm sure he must have been a really bright first class prospect, and them with them playing at home, right? They always have that distinct advantage, and a country like South Africa or Australia, you would never take them lightly at their home, right? So again, South Africa, you look at how they played in T20 World Cup. Nobody rated them, right? Under Temba Bavuma, they were very close to qualifying for the semi-final, right? So yeah, I mean, lot of credit to South Africa actually. Overall, I think the team did not play as bad. We actually kind of suffered from some of the problems that were our own making, when especially the selection problem. As Mahek said, once you carry somebody like Pujara and Rahane into a tour, it's very difficult to drop them, right? And I was making this point a couple of days back. I think it's just a general tendency that we as Indians have. We don't change the batteries when there is 10% left, right? 10% life rest, right? So we always have the tendency कि यार वो 10% बचा हुआ है. Let's let the clock completely die, let the battery completely die, and then we'll replace it, right? So even if there was this possibility of Rahane and Pujara winning a couple of games for us, the more prudent way would have been to just say, okay, I mean, it's possible that Pujara and Rahane can go on for a couple more series. The worst thing that can happen is we'll lose a series in South Africa, which is again, on an overseas tour, it's always possible. So it's a good time. Somebody like Shreyas Iyer has just scored some runs. Somebody like Hanuma Vihari is in South Africa. You had specifically sent Hanuma Vihari to South Africa, making him miss a well-deserved home series, and then you do not play him for 3 test matches. I think that selection tactical blunder, and I won't put it squarely on Kohli. I think it's something the selectors should have had better prudence about. Is something that was our mistake.
So, like another question here. So, basically, South Africa took 20 wickets in all 3 tests, right? India managed just like 3 and 4 in the second and third test in the second innings. Two things what I noticed. One is like Indian bowlers are bowling a much fuller length and going for wickets and bowling flat out. As you mentioned, you missed Ishant Sharma was bowling dry. Was there also like an issue about fitness or an issue about like tactics, that if India had bowled dry for longer and by attrition probably gotten wickets? And another question is, did we blunder or did we miss Jadeja here on this series instead of Ashwin, as Jadeja the batsman? Ashwin had like a limited role, the conditions didn't help him, or maybe we would have been better off with an additional batsman, or so free for all, like if anyone wants to pick it up.
I'll take a quick dig at it, and I'll especially the Jadeja versus Ashwin, I'd want Mahek to speak because he has very strong opinions on that. But I think yes, we did go searching for wickets a little bit. Last day of the series, also you saw Shami straying down the leg side. That's a sign of us trying to get more LBWs and bolds, right? And being too eager for wickets, while South Africans were able to just bowl in the channel, right? I think India lost all of our wickets were caught, right? In the third test.
Yeah, all 20 in the third
all
test.
20
That's
were
a world
caught,
record.
right?
In
That's a world
140
record.
years of test cricket.
Exactly.
That's the first time it had happened.
So that's a clear indication of the lines that they were bowling and lines that we were trying to bowl, and we were too keen, right? Again, it's difficult to adapt because a lot of these bowlers like Bumrah and Shami, we know that they like to bowl straight, right?
Yeah.
But the situation demanded that they applied pressure, make scoring difficult, and put them under pressure. They always kept getting those boundary balls, right? So yes, I think they were a little too eager. On Ashwin versus Jadeja, I think both me and Mahek especially agree that Jadeja is our number one overseas spinner for so many reasons. Somebody asked me, and I hate this term, Sena countries, but now it has become a standard internet lingo, so I'll also use it. That somebody asked me what is Ashwin versus Jadeja's record in Sena countries, and I pulled up the figures from Stats Guru. Jadeja has a better career average in Sena countries than Ashwin, I know both of them don't have a great average, but whatever. Jadeja still has a better average than Ashwin. Jadeja has a better economy rate than Ashwin. Jadeja scores has a better batting average than Ashwin in Sena countries, and fielding की तो बात ही नहीं करते. So
Maybe Mahek
yeah.
can add more. Yeah.
Over to you, Mahek. Yeah.
I mean, Rajesh has taken pretty much all my talking points, so I'll just focus on that bowling dry, right? So if you remember the Oval Test that India won a few months ago, the person who actually did that dry bowling in that game was Jadeja. In the fourth innings, it wasn't a formidable total. Like, it was still gettable. While it was going to be difficult, but there was enough time. England knew that if they batted through to the end of day 5, they would be able to get the runs. And their first wicket partnership, I think, put on 100 runs. So it was Jadeja who just kept bowling into the rough to the right-handers. Eventually, took a beautiful wicket of Hasib Habib right out of the rough as well. So India definitely missed him on this tour. I mean, he's injured, so you can't really do anything about it. So in a scenario where that Ishant is waning, the responsibility of holding one end up then falls on Jadeja's shoulders, and he can do that regardless of the conditions, whether it's in India, whether whether it's abroad. He will do it. That's something that we know he's capable of. It's just that because he doesn't seem to have the kind of variations that Ashwin does, and is generally not as articulate as Ashwin, so he doesn't enjoy the kind of popular support among a section of Indian fans. I think once he's back, it'll be a major boost for India. I mean, the home series, even if he doesn't play, it's clear now that Ashwin and Akshar Patel can do the job. It doesn't matter who they're facing. But abroad, I think he will be the difference maker, as long as he's part of the test side. So that's a major miss for India. And yeah, I feel bad for Ashwin because at the end of the day, he's also a great bowler. And I would still try to play both of them in as many overseas matches as possible. Granted, there are some pitches where it just doesn't make sense, but I think they still can bowl in tandem in on some pitches in Australia and England, and obviously wherever they're playing in Sri Lanka or West Indies.
No, so absolutely. Actually, I want to, as you mentioned, we don't like the term Sena countries, right? I think climatic conditions or the pitch conditions, probably England and New Zealand are closer, and South Africa and Australia are closer in their way, hard bouncy tracks versus swing bowlers. Maybe India, Sri Lanka, and now UAE, which hosts Pakistan matches, probably are similar in a way.
Well, I think Pakistan is going to host its own matches now, it seems.
Sure,
Australia is going to tour them later this year.
And West Indies now, the pitches are getting low and slow, and they are if you would call, some of them can be either flat tracks or either completely variable bounce. So yeah, each place has a little bit variation. It also depends on the strength of the team. So another point which we missed Rohit Sharma here as a batsman. Rohit Sharma is injured and also injured for this upcoming ODI series, which gave an opportunity for Mayank Agarwal to open. So Shubman Gill, Mayank Agarwal, you felt was way out in the reckoning. But with Rohit unavailable, Shubman unavailable, Prithvi Shaw having a very disappointing South Africa A series, very quick run up all 40s and getting out. So what thoughts on Mayank Agarwal? First innings was great, but after that, anyone who wants to take it up?
Oh, okay. I think he did as well as he could have. He's not in the same league as Rohit Sharma, obviously. Overseas, I don't know. Maybe it's a toss-up between him and Shubman Gill. But at home, he's definitely miles ahead of Gill. Shubman has played, I think, 6 tests at home, and I think his highest score is 60 odd.
Yeah.
While Mayank, I think, has 3 or 4 hundreds, and they're not even small hundreds. They're like granddaddy hundreds that he scored. So uh, it was the right thing to pick him. Unfortunately, you are never going to get the kind of runs that you would expect from Rohit in that position.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's a sign that if Rohit wants to be the leader, he needs to take greater care of his body, considering he's actually older than Virat Kohli, right? So if he's going to captain the Indian side in 2 formats, maybe even in a third format, um, and now assume a greater responsibility in tests, because Virat isn't captain. It's high time that he works on his own fitness and is available for India to challenge for 3 ICC trophies in the next year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. Just one quick point on the question of opening, right? I think, uh, uh, 1 out of 3 test matches we had 100 plus opening partnership, right? That's very rare. So I would not, for this season at least, would not put the blame on the opening partnership. We got that one partnership that pretty much set the match for us. Against Rabada in their conditions, it would be very difficult to hope that you'll get 3 out of 3 good opening partnerships. Even Markram struggled. He had a few good starts,
Yeah,
but he wasn't also consistent,
I
right?
mean
So,
that's why I said you got from Mayank what was
yeah,
expected.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I overall, I wouldn't say that he had a bad series. I think yeah, it was more incumbent, and I completely support what Mahek said in the beginning. Like the difference was Keegan Peterson and Bavuma versus head to head versus Pujara and Rahane, right? Yes, way forward we'll definitely have to look at where Mayank fits in this team, and if Rohit Sharma is back and Pujara is out, maybe Mayank. It's again going to be a toss up between maybe Mayank and Gill for the number 3 position, perhaps.
Or maybe Hanuma Vihari could bat one in a higher slot, right?
Yeah.
Overseas, maybe. Yeah. So now another one, which is like a very controversial thing. We have a lot of detractors for Rishabh Pant. He played a bad shot in the second innings, but that's the way he plays. He has 100 in Australia, in England, in South Africa. He has a couple of 90s. He's like a match winner and complete game changer with this 100 which he scored. It was like absolute brilliant batting. It was like complete theater. He was smashing every ball. 8 men on the boundary, not even a first slip. Like 8 men on the boundary. I think is that like question done for good and like because he also keeps, so he has a little bit
Yeah.
more leeway. He has a license to go for his shots instead of just a pure batsman.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Pant?
Yeah, so I was just saying that after the second test match got over, it's easy to talk about this right now after he scored a blistering 100. But even after the second test match got over and he got out playing a rash shot, this question was posed to me that why doesn't Rishabh Pant play play with more application like somebody like Dean Elgar, right? And I answered that Rishabh Pant will not give you mileage. He's not a your family car. He's not a tractor. Dean Elgar may be more reliable, but Rishabh Pant is your sports car. He's a Ferrari. He'll someday he'll just mesmerize you, and some days he may fail on some conditions, and you have to take that, right? He's a out and out match winner. You can compare him to folks like Sehwag or Gilchrist, who would on their day turn a match on their own. Uh, uh, extreme batting talent, and one of the reasons that makes him tick is his uncomplicated mindset. You cannot change the minds of people, right? I mean, this is something I say about Kohli. Maybe we'll talk about Kohli later on in the podcast, I'm sure. But you cannot change how a person is built, right? It's something that it's a leadership quality that we learn always. That you need to understand the value system of a particular person and understand their triggers and what makes them tick. What makes Rishabh Pant tick is just free spiritedness, right? And we should never ever try to suppress that. And yeah, I mean, we talk about giving people a long rope, right? I think Pant has, after what he did in Australia, right? It's pretty much a miracle win that we classify it as, right? So and he has produced the goods after that. He deserves a lot of backing. He's a once in a generation player. He will uh, produce a lot more of this if he's just given a free hand. I don't want him to even the way Dhoni used to play, right, early on in his test career, when he hooked Shoaib Akhtar for that six, and Shoaib Akhtar bowled that beamer at him. That was a different Dhoni, right? I wished he continued to play test cricket like that. But yeah, he made changes to his approach. That's a completely different discussion. But I don't want Rishabh Pant to ever make that change.
And so now you mentioned Kohli. So coming to Kohli, he hasn't scored a century for like what 740 days or something, right? It's people have that countdown going on, and so what has happened? Like, is it captaincy which has been there? His fitness also hasn't been the best. Maybe in his mind, being on a like a tangential note, he's a lot more like status signaling or virtue signaling on Twitter compared to like other cricketers who talk mostly about cricket. So, what thoughts on Kohli and like his slump in form and his fitness where he had to miss a test also cost us a bit.
I
don't know,
think
Mahek?
he's getting on in age. He's 33 now, so it's not like he's a spring chicken. Uh, you know, I you know it's not unnatural for players to go through a slump. In his case, it also seems pretty clear what the issue is, right? That he's unable to score risk-free runs when bowlers try to lure him outside the off stump. That's the issue for him. In the last test, he did a great job of leaving a lot of deliveries that he knew were meant to draw a false shot from him. Eventually, he got out in both innings, going for a wide one. In the first innings, he was running out of partners, so that I wouldn't really count that against him. In the second innings, it seemed that he was able to leave when the bowlers were keeping it on a good length, but the moment Ngidi pitched it up, uh, he just couldn't resist it, and he went for a shot. So maybe there's some technical glitches there that people like you and I aren't qualified to comment on. I'm sure he knows what he has to work on. He hasn't gotten to where he is without having an incredible work ethic. Right? He is more than anyone else in Indian cricket. He's taken care of his body, knowing fully well how his natural body structure is, and the amount of hard work he had to put into to be able to sustain captaining India in three formats for what, more than 4 years, uh, playing the IPL as well. It does take a physical and mental toll. Plus, there's the backroom politics that's going on right now. Um, here's a guy who said he was ready to lead India in tests and ODIs. Then one format gets taken away from him. There are rumors that he's refusing to play under the new captain, and is going to excuse himself on the pretext of his daughter's birthday, which I thought was a very petty move by whoever decided to plant that rumor. And eventually now it's led to him giving up the test captaincy as well. Whatever virtue signaling he does, that's fine. Whether I agree or disagree with players, they have the right to express their views, and people have the right to express their views. I don't think that's what's affecting his game. It's more of age, wear and tear, and the mental toll that it takes to lead the Indian side, and now the added headache of dealing with a board that isn't as compliant as the predecessors. Earlier, he got Shastri because he felt that he was the right man to to be by his side. But once Shastri left, the writing was kind of on the wall. So let's see, now that he's unshackled from the burden of captaincy. Let's see if he rediscovers his form. Obviously, India needs Kohli, the batsman, um, a lot, especially if the two other senior stalwarts in the middle order are going to be phased out. Um, so I'm hoping he returns to some kind of form. If not, well, I mean, we've had a great run with him in the side, and maybe we should just remember the good times.
Absolutely,
Just
absolutely.
just a, just a, just a quick point on Kohli, if I may, Nirav. I really like what Mahek said about separating Kohli's craft from his politics, maybe, right? And this is something that a lot of us need to learn. We can have a separate discussion about anybody's politic and anybody's craft, right? And it's important, especially at a time like this, when a lot of people are talking about. I still see a lot of Kohli's politics getting mixed with his craft, which is unfortunate. An India captain is an India captain, and he deserves some respect
So,
for
Rajesh,
the
on
award.
that, just one thing. It's not even Kohli's politics. It's
Mhm.
Kohli's perceived politics because,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, even if it is his pure politics, right? I'm just saying. I mean, we all talk about, right, how Bollywood actors, are not. There is no Meryl Streep in Bollywood, for example, right? So even if somebody is openly political, I think they have the right to be openly political if they have to, and their craft should be considered completely separate from that, right? Another point about that Nirav said initially on how he's maybe posting more on social media and virtue signaling. One, maybe that is just his PR agency and not him.
Yeah.
Second, I think he's also in the second half, or maybe even the final quarter of his career. And most of us, when we are approaching that retirement age, I think we start thinking about life, beyond our career, right? Beyond our retirement years, right? So maybe it's a bit of that. I think people evolve. We were talking about what Anushka posted about Virat Kohli, and she alluded to how we were when in 2014 you got to captain your first test match, and how far we have come. I'm sure people mature over time. You call it maturity, you call it developing your biases or whatever, right? But people get interested, whether it's maybe just a spirituality or some politics or whatever. So that is perhaps a natural progression. One thing that I'm interested in, and maybe that is a point that a lot of people, and there's no way to know it, right? How much effort Kohli is putting right now in the off season versus how much effort Kohli would put in, say, 2014, when he wasn't able to get those runs in England, and he came back and famously worked with Tendulkar and made those adjustments in his technique, which was really well documented in a masterclass with Nasir Hussain, right? How much hard work he put in, right? So I don't know if he has that hunger to work as hard in the off season anymore, given that maybe his life has changed. Maybe that fire in the belly is not burning as hard as it used to, right? Once he comes on the field, I think everybody says that there will never be any lack of intensity from Kohli, and that is for all of us to see. And with somebody who has the class of Kohli, he will always give you that one inning where he still looks $1 million, right? The previous test match, even Adelaide, where the only test match he played in Australia, he would have possibly made 100. So it's not as if that Kohli hasn't given at least glimpses of his class. Just that he hasn't been able to convert one of these 50s into 100. And honestly, that is something that I don't pay much attention to. It's just a quirk of the decimal system, I always say, which basically just it's something that is so quirky about cricket, that we just keep obsessing about this triple figure mark. I am a computer scientist, and now I count in hexadecimals. So mere liye, I don't even care for that 100 mark, right? So as long as he's making good solid contributions, and I still see glimpses of that, I would still want that, yes, not 100. That's why I think that daddy 100 point is more valid when we talk about the players, right? It's not just about getting the triple figure mark. Like, are you really scoring big? When you're scoring big, beyond that 150, you are actually setting up a test match. right? So I would actually be waiting for that even that daddy 100, because there was a point when Kohli was like putting together a string of double hundreds, right? So that is what I would be looking forward to seeing from Virat Kohli.
Sure, sure.
So just Nirav, on the point of hundreds, it's not that 100 in itself is the be all and end all. It's just
Yeah.
that when you pass the triple figure mark, after that, even if it's a 200 or a 150 or 250, it still counts as a 100. But over a period of time, you make enough of these scores, they will reflect in your batting average
Yeah.
as well. So the thing with Kohli was never that he he lacked class in his batting. Everyone knows he had that, and he still has it. But his hallmark was the ability to score big runs uh, in ways that no other batsman could. He cut out risk from his game, and he still managed to score big runs at a fast pace in a way that an AB de Villiers would never be able to do. AB would have to take a lot more risk to score the kind of runs that Kohli would score. He would obviously look a lot better as well for that very same reason. But the hallmark of Kohli for me was the ability to manage risk in batting, and that is what is missing now. You know,
Yeah.
and if that goes, I don't know what's responsible for it, but Indian cricket desperately needs him to get it back, because if you have peak Kohli, just look at 2018, right? We toured South Africa, England, and Australia. He had a signature 100 in all three series. The kind of 100 that you would not expect anyone else in the Indian team to score. Even if he manages to get to 60-70% of that, uh, that's still a huge upgrade from what we're getting from him right now.
So another thing is, unfortunately, like the loss of form for all 3 years kind of coincided. And so the entire unit constantly being under pressure also takes its toll, right? So, for example, like when he scored about 20 odd or 30 odd in the third innings, with Pant was playing really well at that time. And you could see that Kohli was actually quite comfortable taking the back seat. And you need that help from the other end as well from time to time, right? And so in the periods where Kohli has dominated, there have been other players also stepping up. So maybe Kohli will score well in 4 out of 5 games, but Rahane and Pujara will also pitch in
But
2 or 3 of them,
so
right? And
Abhishek,
that is
that's not
not
what happened in 2018, right? The signature hundreds that he had were all
2018. England was, of course, most of Kohli, but Pujara obviously did
no.
big
I'm
in
talking
the
about
Australia one.
so the Perth test. Pujara didn't score. It was Kohli who carried the
I'm
batting in the
I'm
Perth
talking
test.
about in general the series, right?
Hmm.
Different people have to carry the load in different matches,
Yes, yes.
and that has impacted. Also, another point about Kohli's domination is, and where he scores over even a Tendulkar is, he would score those 500 plus runs series, right? Which would make, like, you probably make India win the series, apart from maybe one exception. So Tendulkar was like 1 or 2 good matches or good innings or big hundreds in a series. Kohli can actually dominate 3 and 4, right, in his peak. And so, I mean, we're kind of realizing how much the Indian team has been dependent on Kohli's really good form in the last 4 or 5 years. And, missing that out has been so we've kind of feeling that now in certain matches and series, right? Like the World Test Championship or this series finally.
Sure, sure. So now we've got like kind of this team which has been very strong, performed very well. Kind of the batting order is in transition. See, I think Kohli is 33, Rohit Sharma is 34, Pujara and Rahane are similar age. Probably next series they're not there. You got KL Rahul has cemented his place quite well. Just a couple of years ago, Rahul was way behind in the pecking order. In Australia series, the one where we got like 36 all out, you had Gill and Prithvi Shaw opening the innings, right? And you got from there, Rahul has come up quite a bit. There is like the whole team is going through this transition. And how does the board manage it? How do the selectors, etc., manage it? Is going to be interesting. Maybe Rajesh, do you want to?
Yeah, I think anytime a team is going through a transition like this, I think it's an interesting time to follow the team, right? Because while we're sitting here talking about this today, maybe 5 or 6 years later, whoever is the next leader and whoever are the folks who put their hand up and cement a place for themselves, I think we'll those are the ones we'll be talking about 6 or 7 years from now, right? If you look at the time when Kohli took over the captaincy. From there to now, at that time there were a lot of question marks, right? And that's why some of the selection decisions that Kohli took initially, he was kind of experimenting, and I'm talking purely about Test cricket, right? You saw Pujara getting dropped quite frequently, Rohit Sharma getting picked to bat at number 3 instead of Pujara. Rahane coming in and out of the side. They were trying to fit Rohit Sharma again in place of Rahane into that side, right? So and then finally figuring out that Rohit Sharma should be the opener. Now this is a team for the past 2 and 3 years that had all those questions sort of answered, and that's why perhaps they were trying to get a little bit more out of those places that in Kohli's head are now sorted with Pujara and Rahane, who he had questions over earlier. Has had a lot more faith towards coming towards the end of his captaincy stint, right? Now going forward, I think again there'll be a lot of places up for grabs, right? And champion teams are created out of such crisis, right? We often talk about Australia, where I think Lily Marsh Chappell retired at around the same time, and after that there was a rebuilding phase, and then Alan Border took over, and he created a team that kind of dominated world cricket for 2 decades, right? So this is perhaps again within a team, right? The influx of fresh blood often brings or takes the team that is already successful to newer heights. Maybe the people who are coming in, and we got glimpses of that in Australia at Gabba, right? People who are coming in are perhaps even more hungry. Perhaps they are going to be even more aggressive. Perhaps they are going to be even more ruthless in that pursuit of victory that Kohli defined so well for us, right? So there'll be a lot of spots up for grabs. Bowling wise, maybe again, a few years down the line, there'll be bowling spots for grabs as well. And it's interesting that the coach of India A, and maybe that was a thought behind making Rahul Dravid the coach. Some people have spoken about it, that Rahul Dravid has worked with all of these players who are now going to be India senior players, right, over the next decade or so. So yeah, I mean some interesting times ahead.
Another one now, there's a lot of controversy on DRS, where like Kohli lost his temper. Even in the first test, to my naked eye, like Mayank Agarwal's LBW looked like a little bit odd. Do you think it is like technology malfunctioning, or like this is a very controversial topic? So I don't know, any thoughts on that one? Or was it just that things where these things are not very well calibrated, so difficult to judge trajectory and bounce? Those odd decisions.
I think you tend to get these odd decisions every series where people will be like, we really didn't expect the ball to do this, right? Um, the decision here, the Elgar one, which put off Kohli, I think it was partly that, partly the heat of the moment. But let's not forget that just the previous day there was a similar LBW call against Mayank Agarwal where the ball hit him right under the knee roll. He went for a review, and the replay showed that the ball was missing the stump. So I don't think it was a malfunction. Definitely not something the host broadcaster was fiddling with, because as per the ICC protocol, there's an independent party which manages this system. So I just think it was the heat of the moment, and it got to Kohli.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought he would be able to use it to galvanize the side, and it had the opposite effect. Whatever it was, but I won't put it down to the technology. I thought it was we could have done without it. I'm not getting into the spirit of the game or anything, just purely from what gives you the best chance to win the match. I thought that outburst was not needed.
Yeah. On DRS as a technology, right? I think a lot of us miss so many factors that go into tracking the trajectory of the ball, right? I think with say Keshav Maharaj is not as tall as Ashwin. The release point for Ashwin is very different. There are so many things, and end of the day, it is based on a statistical model, right? I think I'm not the statistics guy, not the computer modeling guy, but still, I do understand that those things can throw quirky data at you, which you may find counterintuitive, but something that is built on the back of a large data set at times can surprise you, right? And it is perhaps more accurate than we perceive it to be, and it is perhaps that things that we from looking from naked eye, that all those kind of biblical truths about if the ball hits below the knee roll, it is just out, right? And we are used to just judging LBW's decisions like that. And now that the machine and the technology has come, maybe the time is to change some of those perceptions and really feel that okay, maybe let's look at the delivery point, let's look at how the pitch is, right? And at times even it is possible that there is some genuine there's genuine flaw in the machine itself, right? That can happen one out of a million times. We have seen that in tennis also. I remember there was some occasion where the ball actually left a mark on the court, and it was clear that it was out, and it the Hawkeye camera showed it is in, right? So that happens in, because it's a very fast moving object. There is no
Yes.
camera in the world that can actually draw a continuous trajectory of the ball. So even when we
And it
talk
is
about.
impacting a moving body as
Exactly,
well.
exactly. So while we project the path of the ball after it sort of hits the pad, but even the actual trajectory of the ball that it covers, while see, some of this illusion is created by the camera, I often say, right? Because on the camera we see a continuous line being drawn, and we feel that those cameras are actually capturing every microsecond of the ball's trajectory, and that is actually not happening, right? There is actually gaps between where the ball
So it's the
was captured.
frames per second
There's
that
this, it
kind of
just
changes.
depends on frames per second. So there are those things as well, right? And that it can throw surprise at you. On Kohli's reaction, I don't have a problem with Kohli's reaction as such, but the way we played after that reaction didn't go as well with me, right? We kind of lost the plot for a while, and Dean Elgar also talked about it, which is kind of it gave me the feeling that they pulled a fast one on us, right? Losing that tactical battle, I think losing that sneaky battle where he said that we just felt that we can score a quick 30 while chasing a smallish target. I think that's where we lost the plot. I agree with Mahek that that may have been deliberate, and that's what Kohli does, tries to invoke that siege mentality of entire nation against 11 men, right? And he has done that, and Ravi Shastri has done that over the years, right? So maybe the goal was a bit of that as well, just to channelize that anger and continue playing with intensity, but it definitely backfired.
Okay. We've spoken a lot about like the whole Indian team. Unlike the South African team, we've briefly mentioned. So two new finds for South Africa. Marco Jansen, who we saw play a couple of IPL games for Mumbai Indians, and Keegan Peterson, obviously. Also, Temba Bavuma had a steady series. Earlier, there were a lot of allegations that Bavuma was just in because he was player of color, etc., etc., and there were other batsmen who could have been there. So these three guys and Jansen's duel with Bumrah. Any comments on that as well? So just the three kind of like breakout players this series.
So Jansen, felt to me after a while like a left arm, Kyle Jamieson, in the sense he was giving sort of similar troubles. Obviously, I think Jamieson might still be a slightly better bowler, but the whole angle that he created and combined with his height, it was quite a sort of potent combination for Indian batsmen to handle. And he was able to, after he settled in, probably from the second innings of the first match, he was pretty consistent, right? And he also seems to have a bit of character and attitude with him, right? To go head to head versus Bumrah. I mean, we may, uh, uh, I don't know how a lot of folks perceive, but I think Bumrah is actually perceived as a superstar in world cricket, right? And so to actually go head to head with him and not flinch or back away is a credit to him. So yeah, he's probably a very good find. From what I recall, he was actually picked also a bit for his batting abilities. He scored well against India A, and probably that might have helped his selection. I don't think he did too much with the bat. He was all right, but overall, I think he's a pretty good one for the long run for South Africa. And coming to the other two, I think hats off to them, especially Peterson, right? I think this was his first series, right? So
Second series.
second series. So to the way he handled, even when he was not scoring big runs in his initial innings. He looked pretty organized and composed at the crease, and eventually his qualities came through. Bavuma has, of course, been there for a longer period of time. He's a more known quantity, and so he sort of illustrates what you can do in terms of good, meaningful contributions without scoring big runs, right? So if you're consistent at a position like number 5, 6, give those 30s, 40s. It helps prolong the innings, right? Much more rather than a score like 3 for 100 quickly becoming 6 for 130, 140. He was able to hold on to one innings, bat a lot of time, and eventually that proved decisive, right?
Yeah, quick point on Bavuma. Actually, I think Abhishek covered all the points that I would have wanted to speak about. But ever since Bavuma became the captain also of the T20 side, I think that kind of also helped me. He looks like a very mature character, and we have seen with some players when they are given that extra responsibility. I think they became even better as players. I know he's not a captain in this format. Maybe he's been looked upon as a captain, future captain for test matches as well, right? And I think that has helped him really improve and focus on his game, right? So credit to Bavuma. I think he had a lot to reckon with, a lot of external noises as well. And while he has not scored that career defining 100 and all, but he has still made those steady contributions, and his game in general, he looks a lot more confident, right? Like people like in the past, Darren Sammy or even Jason Holder, right? When they became captains, their game was not rated as high as the output they were able to produce after becoming captain. So Babuma may be one such character.
Okay, we're going very fast on time. So, like very quickly, one we've spoken a lot about this series. There were a couple of other series. So the Ashes just concluded. England lost 4-0. You had a surprise New Zealand Bangladesh series where Bangladesh beat New Zealand in the first game before an innings defeat versus New Zealand, and India losing like 1-2. Where does this keep the World Test Series in the points? And what are the next upcoming series that all of us are looking forward to?
So for India, I think the worst of the WTC is behind them now. Say for the one test in England that they have to play. Other than that, they have two matches at home against Sri Lanka, two in Bangladesh, and four tests at home against Australia. So it's going to get a little easier for India. For Australia, it's going to get harder because all three of their away series are in the subcontinent. They're touring Pakistan, they're touring Sri Lanka, and India. So they will likely drop a fair number of points uh, in these three series. The Bangladesh loss was a big minus for New Zealand because that's the one series where they would have counted on getting 100% of the points, and instead they came away with just half of them. Uh, and this time, I think they're going to also host England and South Africa, so that won't be easy for them. Right now, what it looks like is Australia and Pakistan seem to be the best bets right now for making the final. Um, but I think it'll one of them will end up missing out is what my sense is. Unless in India does something really terrible at home, which I mean, the last few years have given no such indication. I think India should challenge for a spot in the final with either Pakistan or Australia being the other team to make it.
Sure, sure. And now, last one, like I think we've already run out of time, over an hour. Uh, One question about the Indian team. So you've had Ravi Shastri depart as coach. You've got Rahul Dravid in. You've had a lot of changes at BCCI. You have Saurav Ganguly. Slowly and steadily, he's appointed the players who played with him on key positions, who spent a lot of time with him. So you have in the selection committee as well, you have a lot of people from the Ganguly era. You have Dravid as the team's coach. Maybe let's see whether we see who is the anointed as a test captain. Is it Rohit, or do they go with Rahul looking at the future? So what thoughts on like future of like Indian cricket with this new BCCI? Maybe a lot of new changes in the team.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, right? These are interesting times. I think Ganguly's kind of just started flexing. You may you may expect more interesting changes as well. I think he will have a say in most things going forward. And I don't doubt his credentials in terms of judging the right person to do the right role, but I'm sure he's going to have. I mean, he has already gone on record saying that Rahul Dravid was his choice. He got on phone with Rahul Dravid. He also made the point about asking Kohli to stay. I mean, which is not necessarily board president's job, right? I don't remember, Dalmi or Sharad Pawar saying something on similar lines, right? Or Srinivasan, right? So Ganguly is sort of a, that kind of leader who wants to, just be in charge. The how the future holds, and it depends on how, Ganguly decides to take Indian cricket forward, right? It's not just about how he takes this team forward. He has so many things on his table to decide. People keep talking about women's IPL. People keep talking about domestic cricket, for example, right? So all of those decisions, he is going to have a very important say in that. He is going to be the chief architect, if you want to call it, going forward. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting few years, right? So. I remember there was a phase when during this Greg Chappell era, even when there was a lot of rift or politics in the Indian team, I kind of lost interest in the game for a while. That's when I became a football devotee for a few years, because I kind of I felt there is so much politics in how cricket is played. So it may turn that way as well, where some fans may kind of at least temporarily lose or get because you never know. Again, that's a point a lot of people are discussing, how long Kohli is going to continue as a player also, right? I hope he doesn't give up so easily, and there are no indications, at least at this point. But given that, at least Virat Kohli is, I've been very surprised by what the kind of statements Virat Kohli was used to make even in his prime, right? I think, Mahek would remember, he would say things like, I think it's very easy for me to walk away from this game, right at the peak of his career. Right, he would say that family is more important for me, and there is life outside cricket. You don't hear champion players talk about that. Not just cricketers, champion athletes talk about that. So I think he would be that sort of take that Dhoni, and he did sort of a Dhoni in terms of how he gave up Test captaincy, right? So maybe he will. Someday he can just quickly just decide that he has had enough, right? So there is going to be drama, right? And we sit here for the masala at times, right? So we are going to have a lot of masala to talk about. So good times ahead for people like us also who like to talk about the sport.
So I think that's a wrap. Thanks for joining on this podcast. Hope all of you all are safe, and see you all next week. Yeah. Thank you.